What is now?
That school has nothing to teach me. I told you what I want. You don't want to help me? Fine. I'll do it myself.
Look. That's what you want? You want me to teach you how to be a killer? Sure, no problem. I teach you, but you'll be dead in 5 years. If you want to be a killer and survive, you got to be a smart one. You have to know things besides how to pull a trigger. You have to know how the world works, how people think. You gotta learn and understand how to be psychological. And I cannot teach you that unless you learn the basics at school. You got that? Come on, what's it going to be? Catalan? You choose. Come on. Now, choose. Come on. What you want? Choose. Better.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right. I'm Reese. To my left is
David.
Further off to my left,
Irina.
Across from me,
Noah.
And leaving behind beautiful aromatic orchids at the scenes of his many crimes, we have
AJ. That was a little odd.
Well, you're a little odd.
Why was it
I'm
odd?
gonna have to change up my calling card now. You're on to me.
You just let everybody know.
getting a little too close to home, huh?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
might start just cutting out letters from magazines and pasting them on the letters now.
That's smart.
The Zodiac Killer.
After 22 episodes that AJ's been a part of, the cops are finally closing in on him.
I think we've done more than that.
Well, I know, but in the never mind. in the movie, 22 people.
Oh, that's right. Today, of course, we're talking about Colombiana, a movie that came out in 2011, directed by, and forgive me if I get this wrong, Olivier Megaton.
Megaton.
But if you just say it, if you just read the name, it's Megaton, which I like.
No, you just made that sound like something out of like a 1980s Transformers movie.
That was the point. Megaton. It was supposed to be Starscream.
What it sounded like.
That
Hey,
is true.
we got that
That's
from
right.
last episode. We saw a little bit of that.
There you go. This guy has no good movies to his name.
Oh my God, Reese.
But I'm going to list them off anyway. He's actually had a couple of French movies that really there's no critical reception for them,
Say
so
no
they
more.
could be good or bad, I don't know.
They're French.
Like, he had to find this role as a big-time director somehow, so... but the ones y'all will know are Transporter 3, Taken 2, Taken 3, and most recently the Netflix film The Last Days of American Crime, which has the rare distinction of being one of the few films with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Are you kidding me?
Whoa.
I'm not kidding you.
Wow,
He's
that's kind
breaking
of a
all sorts of
typecast
records.
History there,
Yeah.
and then he jumped straight into making a musical.
Wait, what?
A musical, like this is based on the original play. I think the play was first, or the album. I can't remember.
Well, you're going to have to elaborate on this one, AJ.
Evita, you didn't sing along with this movie.
My
You have
gosh.
the South American orphan girl who blends well into society and tries to take down the corruption.
You know, I don't know if
This
that's
is
the one.
exactly Evita.
I kind of wish we watched Evita, to be honest.
Isn't Evita...
Don't we all? I mean,
Okay, AJ, as
Was
always...
that close?
No. But...
relatively.
But we'll find a place for you in this episode. This movie
Don't cry for
stars...
me.
Yeah. This movie stars Zoe Saldana, Jordi Moya, Lenny James, Michael Vartan, and Cliff Curtis. It's written by Luc Besson and Robert Mark Kamen.
Luc Besson, our old friend.
Yep, behind Leon.
What happened?
We'll talk about it. Okay. So yeah, this is a sort of spiritual sequel to Leon the Professional, though after watching this movie, like, that is a stretch.
It's just terrible. Like it's
Listen,
it's
now,
not
way
something
to
that should
Anyway.
happen.
Way to reveal your hand early.
Sorry, I mean it's really good.
No, this
That
so
fixes it.
They stole the thunder of
Overcorrecting.
Leon.
so
Yeah,
all right.
totally.
So Colombiana came about because Luc Besson started his Europa Corp production company, and the people that owned the rights to Leon the Professional were very upset about that. But Luc Besson had the script for the sequel to this movie, or what would be the sequel, which would pick up where Matilda left off at the end of the last film, and it would be a story about her growing it into be her own kind of accomplished assassin of
Professional.
sorts. Yes, professional. So this one takes some of the bones of that story and just basically takes it to a different location, changes all the names of the characters, erases any, Leon-esque, character in the back. Like, there's no references to
It's a different
person-
movie,
Yeah, there's no references to a person that trained her. There is a person who trains her in this movie, but basically all the slate is wiped clean, but the bare minimum of that original script is kind of kept intact. Now, I haven't read that script, so I don't know how much it is pulling from it, but Luc Besson is a writer on this, so I have to imagine it has a good amount of plot beats.
Noah read the script.
Oh yeah, Noah read the script too.
Yeah,
but we're not gonna call back to him for that.
Oh, okay. That's basically Reese shutting down my improv. That was Reese's way of doing that.
I kind of drafted off of it a little bit and then shut it down.
Yeah, you did. It was well played.
Anyway, for those who are new to this show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then, towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, you guys, had y'all seen Colombiana before your prep for this episode? Let's go with AJ.
No, I had not. Although, oddly, it had been recommended to me, so I no longer speak with that person who recommended it to me.
Wait,
They're blacklisted.
No, it had been talked about, I think, in probably discussions on, I don't know, Zoe Saldana's work or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've heard of it, but had not seen it until now.
It is weirdly, despite me I haven't seen this film, just to be clear, or had not seen it before this episode, but it is weirdly one of the ones that I think of when I think of the actress Zoe Saldana. I'm like Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, Colombiana. Like, I don't know why. Oh, Star Trek, I guess, as well. But Colombiana always comes up for some reason, because it's like that's one of her few, I don't know, starring lead roles, yes. Even though I hadn't seen him, it's one of the images that flashes across my mind when I think of that actress.
she deserves better.
I agree. But, Irina.
Yeah, never saw this. When the name first came up, it didn't sound familiar at all. But then seeing some of the imagery when we were getting ready to watch the movie, there was something vaguely familiar. So I must have seen a trailer at some point, but I never followed up on that.
Yeah. David.
No lo había visto.
What does that mean?
Means I have not seen this movie.
You have not seen it.
No, never heard of it either. I feel like AJ's pulling out all these movies that I've never heard of. It's one of those, you see the cover, you're like, maybe I saw it
Well,
somewhere.
it's no Yeti football, so.
Yeah, it's no Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Let's be real here, though, guys. Which one would you rather watch?
Well,
Okay,
I don't
that
want.
is-
Let's not reveal
Insert
our
crickets
hands.
here.
I don't want to reveal our hands too early here. I know we're just chomping at the bit to talk about this, but let's try to keep.
We're all frothing at the mouth.
This week
Yeah.
was my first time watching it.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Noah.
Never.
Never. And I think I know.
never again.
Based off your reaction, the moment you finished seeing it, I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into that story. But before we do that, David, you want to do a quick call to action for us?
I'll see what I can do. Reese, what if I told you that we didn't even need to do a call to action because every single person is going to give us a 5-star review on Apple after this?
I'd call you a liar.
You can call me a liar. Check it next week. We're going to go on there. We're going to have 5 reviews. All 5 listeners are going to give us. Yeah, that's great, right?
I don't even think that's likely.
That's not likely at all.
No. You got to be optimistic. All 3,000 viewers.
I don't think we've had 3,000 viewers, but
You. Yeah, you. The one
listeners,
listening.
by the way.
listeners, all of them. Anyway, we have a podcast here. We review movies. We need that 5-star review on Apple. It helps us in the algorithm and promotes us to more people, which is what we're here to do. We also have an Instagram. We have a Twitter, man by Reese. We kind of have a war going on. If you could follow us more on Instagram, that'd be great for me. We also have a YouTube with some of our episodes, so check us out.
I'll say in this war, David is the Alamo.
I'm holding on, man.
You're taking out as many of my troops as you can, or my soldiers.
I'm literally just trying to sabotage our own podcast for my own gain.
It is a losing battle for you, sir. I'm sorry.
You are better.
No, I'm not better. But I like... The funny thing is you put more effort into the Instagram, and I just like... I guess I'll throw a tweet out there this week.
I just feel like more people follow on Twitter. I just think it's in this outlet, it makes more sense.
Yeah, I think Twitter does have a more avid like podcast following.
We might be talking about this a little too much.
No, let's dig deeper. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not.
We need to go back.
Okay. Thanks for that brilliant call to action. This is why I always come to you for this.
Hey, man, there's going to be somebody who gives us a like on Apple Podcasts now.
Or Pod Chaser, something that doesn't help us.
Exactly.
Hey,
No, if you want to
They're
give
being
us one of
active.
those.
how about this? I will say this from every episode from now on. I challenge you, listener, to share this. Tell one person about this podcast
Yes.
right now. Do it.
That would be amazing. AJ, how about you give us that story there?
Catalea. Never forget where you came from. Get ready. Want me to teach you how to be a killer? But I just remember where you came from. Who are you?
Not from the service.
There's 22 murders in the last 4 years.
I'm doing this my way.
Catalea. Why?
You know why.
She's going after us. She's just a girl. Take care of it.
I don't know if something or someone hurt you before.
Find her! Look everywhere!
In 1992, in Bogota, Colombia, a drug lord, Don Luis Sandoval, sends his henchman Marco to a group of killers to kill Fabio Restrepo and his family, because Fabio is intent on leaving the life of crime behind. Fabio gives his 9-year-old daughter, Catalaya, a smart media computer memory card with the information on Don Luis's business and tells her it is her passport. He also gives her the address of her uncle Emilio, a criminal in Chicago, who will take care of her. The last thing he gives her is his mother's Catalaya orchid necklace. However, Fabio and his wife Alicia are gunned down as Catalaya escapes to the United States after handing over the memory card to the U.S. Embassy, later escaping their grasp as well. Catalaya finds her uncle Emilio in Chicago and asks him to train her as a killer.
I want to challenge y'all before we dive into this. Each of y'all, I'm going to go round table. Let's say something positive about this section.
No.
What do you mean? Are you implying that we don't have much good to say?
I have a feeling that this is like lambs to the slaughter, basically. And I want to shine a light on something about this particular section of this movie. Or
Okay.
it's a big plot. Or, I mean, a big portion of the story. Let's say something nice before we really dive in.
All right, I'm going to go first before someone steals it.
Okay.
Establishing shot. Pretty cool intro. Really got into the feel of Bogota, however you want to
Bogota.
pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
whatever dialect you're
like
using.
the favelas, or is that what they're called? Like the
Well, Fidelis is in.
yeah, that's South America. Sorry, that's Brazil. What are they called?
The Rolling Hills of Colombia.
There you go.
Can I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
9-year-old parkour. Oh, yeah. That was just
Love that.
brilliant.
I will say I was kind of amused by the throw up scene.
Okay, I weirdly liked that. You know, it was kind of unexpected.
I was like, I haven't seen that in a movie.
Full commitment.
Arena, you got anything?
No, that's honestly
yours?
the one I was going to say. Where as a child actress, she's not that bad.
Yeah.
I liked her as an establishing
And
character. Also, I think they spent a little more time with her, I guess, as a child than I would expect.
Yeah, it's like a 25, 30 minutes or something.
And I don't mind that. I kind of like it. That sometimes
She just
they
sits there staring.
Yeah. Sometimes they cut a little too quickly from, you know, this established child to the, you know, main point of the film.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and we'll get more into her.
Well,
I just want to hear the brief, like,
Okay.
positive
So
moments
vomit,
before we
setting
actually
the high
dive
note
in.
for the movie.
Yep. David, you got a positive note?
I liked when she stabbed him in the hand. She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm a child. I'm scared. Never mind. I'm going to stab you in the hand and then run out the window.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads into Noah's parkour scene, too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's out of the way.
Well, I want to discuss this a little bit because we're talking about the establishing shot, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's
so
what
let's
we're going to
compare
get.
this to Leon a little bit. So, do the feel of, you know, the little environment they're in, do we get that same kind of feel? Does this feel like another?
No, not at all. This seems like the establishing shot is decent, but before that, the opening to this movie is the credits over this like really shoddily put together montage of like various atrocities that have occurred in this region, and it seemed cheap to me. Like I do like the shot of the location right after that montage, but right from the get-go, I knew that this was inferior. And this is...
My right arrow key was pretty heavily used for that.
I'm going to comment on that in more of a positive way, where I think as a director, I think there was an establishment, well, not an establishment, but there's an established idea that this won't be Leon the Professional, and they shouldn't try to make it that way. I think from the start, I realized, this isn't going to be an artsy film. This is something that's a little more of a action, kind of like, I don't know. I got at first Jason Bourne or, some kind of action film feeling from it. Leon the Professional has an intro that's very kind of dreamlike, you know, coming upon a setting that feels surreal, where this is trying to be a little more...
So it's more kinetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely got the Hollywood coat of paint.
Yes, exactly.
Super
Even
high
though it's
contrast.
got kind of indie bones under the skin.
Exactly. I think it was trying to... It seemed like it was trying to come across as a little more Western.
Yeah, and look, I tried to wipe my brain of, like, Leon the Professional because... This movie does do a lot to separate itself from that.
Right.
But then I started comparing it to its other counterparts, like what it's actually trying to be.
Right.
And it still comes up short. Mm-hmm. Like this, Jason Bourne, this is not. Like Jason Bourne has great action, a compelling story. This has none of that. Like,
this has a girl that wants vengeance on a family.
So, David, you want to pull those scores?
It sounds like everybody's made up their mind.
No, okay. Let's talk about...
Try to reel it back in.
Let's talk about her... what's her name? Amanda Stenberg as the young Catalina. I think she's fine in this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's given a decent material to work with. I think out of all the lines in this movie, the writing, it's best for her. Like, I think she gets by.
Because most of it is childish.
Do you not like the scene with her dad? It's like, I would have rather he yelled and threatened to kill my family.
Oh my gosh, that line, I ended up seeing that part twice, and each time it just kind of... Do you ever watch a movie where someone speaks a line and you're like, that was not the best take? That, and that could have been written differently.
The problem is with the movie is essentially the writing, because there's so much writing or dialogue that is like, let me explain everything that I am feeling right now to you and why I'm feeling it and what it's going to mean.
Soap opera-esque.
Yeah, it is very... I actually wrote... That's in my notes. This is a soap opera. And David, lean over. Look what this says right here.
This is soap opera Leon.
But yeah, that overreaction or overacting on that, especially on that part, kind of threw me off because I was like, is this guy an undercover,
Agent.
government agent or something like that for another foreign, like the U.S. or something like that? But no, he's just, genuinely trying to get out. I never got that impression because of that response from him.
I didn't understand that whole thing with her dad. Like, it seemed like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he a drug lord? Like, what does he do?
There's something kind of, even though this is supposed to be a very threatening environment, it is not threatening. And I think an issue that starts from the very beginning of this film and carries through is the music cues. They're very confusing. There are a lot of music cues that don't match up with what is happening.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was written for the scenes that were actually going on. Almost like a score was improvised and then sort of cut up and put into places.
Irene and I were watching the scene with her boyfriend, and it's super intense music. Like, is somebody going to stab one of the other people? Like, I don't... And then they would just transition to the next scene as if nothing was going wrong. I'm like, why was that there?
Yeah,
So-
I'm not quite sure.
So for any of our listeners who are confused, like I feel like we're shotgun blasting this movie with all these various random criticisms and ideas, but we're talking about the portion where our lead character, she's the young Catalia. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's Catalia.
Yeah, the young Catalia. Her parents are killed, and now she's bailing on this whole situation. There was a deal between her dad and this drug lord, I guess, or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And her parents are killed, and now she's kind of on the run. She stabs the guy in the hand who is trying to get her to give him something. I don't remember what
it's
it
a
was.
chip. There's a microchip.
The chip, that's right. Yeah.
Their passport.
No, specifically the smart media computer memory card.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
Computer magic.
another
Did they
thing...
ever explain what was on that?
Something to do
Just
with the bad
incriminating
guys.
evidence against Don Luis.
Yeah.
Clearly didn't work.
Well,
She does end up escaping, and she runs into Cliff Curtis's character later on. His name's Emilio Restrepo. I think that's it. Cliff Curtis is an actor that I like. I love it when he shows up in movies.
He was in a previous one we did recently.
Yes. He's always solid. But in this one, like, what he's given to do it's just executed so... It's just wrong.
What, you don't like the Leon scene where he just, in broad daylight, shoots at cars outside of a school?
Yeah, there's a line before this where she was like, I want to be a killer. And he's like, sure. And then he pulls out his gun after picking her up from school, and then just straight up shoots a random car that's driving by that then runs into a fire hydrant, and then they stand there for like 5 minutes.
Even when the police get here, he just like puts his gun into his jacket. He's like, nope, the gun's away. They'll never find me.
I feel like this movie has there are so many elements to it that are played out very seriously, combined with moments that seem like it's supposed to be campy.
Yeah.
You know? And so that would be one of those scenes where if this were a campy film, it would be like there would be a drinking game. It's like, everybody take a shot when Emilio shoots up a car in the middle of, broad daylight or something.
It is Chicago.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think with this scene though, specifically, I think as I was watching it, I think it was trying to establish that in this area of the city, he's kind of a big deal, like he offers money to that principal so that she can go to school. And once he leaves, she kind of shudders, kind of like she encountered someone threatening or he's a big name in the neighborhood. So I think there's almost this, he can swing his weight if he wants to aspect, but it doesn't come across clearly enough in the visual storytelling of this film.
It just seemed, for me, that even as this, person who is of some import to this part of the city, like, just, I didn't take him as this reckless character who would just randomly pull out his gun to shoot something.
And then I pulled out my gun?
And then one of his... Is that a reference to something?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I'm not getting it.
Oh, that's too bad.
What is it from?
R. Kelly. It's particularly the South Park reference to R. Kelly.
Okay, cool.
Tom Cruise come out of the closet.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying?
Where was it?
You want a big D energy, man.
Emilio, his character, his delivery, I get where you're coming from. Like, I wanted to like him, but it was that soap opera effect, you know,
Right.
not the motion part, the actual delivery of the lines. It's like, this is just, like Irina said, we don't know if we're supposed to take this seriously or not, but I'm not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this whole scene is his line following this big scene is like, if you want to be a killer, you have to be smart. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure what you just did there was kind of stupid.
That was exactly what I said when I saw this. Like, you are
Like, go
not
learn your
providing a good
ABCs.
example. So what will it be? The gun or the backpack? Meanwhile, the cop cars are pulling up outside.
Yeah. There's immediately there's just a confusion as far as what the purpose of this film is.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a callback to Leon 2, where Leon couldn't read, or if that was just...
If it was a callback, it was a bad one. Because there are parallels between Leon and Emilio that I feel like they're trying to really like hit home, and it's just done so much more nuance with more nuance in Leon the Professional. Like he's trying to, in Leon the Professional, he's really trying to not get her into this life, but he doesn't take that much to persuade. Same in this situation, but in Leon, you believe it because he is not simple-minded, but more of a, I don't know, he's
Slow.
a more pliable character, I guess, where
Right.
he could more easily be convinced. This guy's just, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I like how when she asked him, I want to be a killer, he's like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
no hesitation.
No, he says, sure.
Dude,
Sure.
and talk about the most unnatural way for that to come about. I want to be a killer, just straight up. They didn't ever allude to her character before the incident or after. They just suddenly had her jumping into action, stabbing people, parkour running, and then, oh, I'm apparently a genius kid. I'm gonna swallow the microchip because I know exactly what to do.
I could make it
She grew up in
stretch
a hard
where
life.
like her family knows what they're in for, you know, and they
Contingencies.
kind of taught her certain self-defense things or little tricks or things like that she should know in case of an emergency. Like
Yeah.
I can make that stretch.
I bought that more as like her father probably taught her these
Right.
things.
Okay, but with all the time that, for me, they wasted in this beginning stage of her as a child, why not develop that side then?
Well, that's probably more of the I bet you the script was really good in regards to like
Yeah.
how it balanced the child version and the adult version. It's just, I think the execution of this is poor.
Regardless,
And also remember, we were already supposed to have seen that in Matilda.
Right. So Matilda was supposed to be kind of that
Yeah, this
established identity, I guess. of her
Liaison.
child.
Okay.
the first 25 minutes of this is like, this is a recap, even though
Right.
it's like completely reframing the story in a different way.
And also, how many people are going to go into this movie from a movie based in the 90s to think, oh yeah, this is the storyline that carries on the storyline?
yeah, it's just a kerfuffle.
Okay.
I like that.
But it just brings it to one of my biggest issues with this movie, and it is pacing is terrible. Like they have, I don't know, they spend this large amount of time with her as a kid, and you're okay with watching that, and that's fine. But then the movie is actually rather short for what they're trying to cover, at least.
Yeah, it's an hour,
So
48 minutes or
Yeah,
so.
yeah, which is like a standard length for a film, but for this, they're trying to take down a drug lord, whoever this guy is, or she wants revenge,
Yeah.
and they just like glaze through almost all of this. They throw in like a haphazard romance, and it like
Yeah. But I
It
think
just
we
is-
haven't gotten to that
no
point yet.
I know. I'm just covering the fact that
Right.
like the pacing throughout this whole movie is just wacky.
No, I definitely think the pacing.
I mean, it's supposed to be the fast-paced, sleek Hollywood action.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we need to move on with that story.
yeah. Let's move on with that story.
15 years later, a grown Catalea has become an accomplished assassin. Her uncle serves as her broker, providing her with contracts. With each murder she commits, she leaves her signature, the Catalea flower, which is a message to her ultimate target, Don Luis. When Emilio finds out that Catalea is killing outside of the contracts as well, he begs her to stop as attracting Don Luis's attention will only endanger their lives. But she refuses and they have a falling out. After spending the night with boyfriend Danny Delaney, Danny takes a photo of her sleeping and then shows it to a friend, who then has her investigated for a background check.
Oh, God.
That scene. We'll get to it. But
Okay, so Zoe Saldana
yeah.
as Catalea. How do we feel she does in this movie? Does she carry this movie? Is she a strong leading lady here?
So I really like her. For what she's given, she does a very good job. And the style of stealth, especially in the beginning, I really enjoy. It's kind of cat burglar like.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would say Halle Berry.
Yeah,
I got
David and I
Catwoman
were
vibes, yeah.
David and I were talking about Catwoman a lot, and I think it works for basically the kind of body language that she's able to convey. So I really liked that intro to her character. I think she thought she was in a very different film. Every time I've listened to an interview with her, she's always talking about Luc Besson and all his films and how much she loves them and wants to give, really wants to flesh out this character and try and follow up all those female leads before her. So I think she went into this thinking of it as, strongly relating to all those other films, which it does not.
So,
it doesn't fit with her environment.
I thought it was interesting because I guess she had lunch or something with Luc Besson, and he was explaining how he wanted her for the role. He's like, but I don't want to give you the script unless you're 100% on board and serious.
Right.
He described what the character was in the storyline. She's like, are you kidding me? I'd have to be stupid not to want this.
Yeah.
And from
Too
then
bad
on,
he
you're
didn't
like,
have that conversation with everybody else.
Yeah,
Well, that's refreshing, too, because I definitely saw that passion in her performance. It wasn't, some big name actor who is just phoning this in for a paycheck.
Right.
Like, despite, they recognize this as a good or bad movie, they are still doing their job and doing their best to their ability. And so we got that from her.
And despite like some of the lines she's given, I do think she competently carries this movie on her shoulders. I don't think she saves the movie, but she's definitely like not a detriment to the proceedings.
I was convinced that she thought she was a professional, or she came across as a professional in her scenes.
Exactly.
Where she's the only thing on screen that's, it was working.
I don't understand the character we're supposed to be rooting for in this movie because she's not like Leon or Matilda. It's not like...
Well, okay.
I mean, this is a pure revenge movie.
Yeah.
It's not a vigilante, really. I mean, she's got one motive for her own revenge, and I do get the fact that she learned well to be smart about what her objective is. I mean, her, methodology, she pretends to be this drunk woman, only carries a library card with her so they don't have her real name. Yeah. And everything when she leaves is all methodical, and I appreciated that. So I am convinced that she learned well and is good at her job.
It's more it's less that her methods for killing, like whenever she would kill someone, it was okay, that was thought out. She thought this out. Great. Yeah. But her problem was with risking other people's lives that she cares about, and the way she did it was not smart.
I can see how that's frustrating, but at the same time, I think it's an issue of the way this movie is filmed and what they chose to focus on, because even when you watch interviews with her, Zoe Saldana, she's talking about the motivations of the character, and you can tell that she does have a beat on this character. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she's trying her hardest to convey that. And the purpose was that, or her motivation is clearly to avenge her family. And Zoe Saldana describes her character as a girl that she was traumatized at a young age, and while she is a killer and lethal, she's still kind of a child. And so her motivations are, yes, kind of childish because she's been stunted. So I think I get that she's motivation. I understand it. It's just the way this movie is framed doesn't encourage that aspect.
I think she did a lot more research and character study on her character than the director did.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is the perfect definition of a complete disconnect between actor and director.
Right.
When I look at this director, and I'm not trying to slight Olivier Megaton, however you say his name.
Yeah.
But it's very run-of-the-mill action filmmaking. There's no dimensions or layers to his films. And this is an actor just really getting into it more than anyone else is.
Right.
She's doing the homework.
Right.
Whereas Olivier is just like, let's shoot an action movie.
I wonder if it also came down to the fact that they had multiple different countries involved in this. I guess I don't know if it was the studio that had these different countries, but what you had Spain, France, and the U.S. Involved in this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of people speaking different languages on set and directing different people.
Yeah.
So apparently that got confusing for some of the people
Well,
on set.
Here again, it's, an indie movie in Hollywood clothing. So the director, as Reese is saying, is going for that Hollywood market, that audience, that feel, that tone.
Right.
And then the support, or, the people like Besson who originally had the idea, I would imagine, and Zoe Saldana, like they want something more, so they're trying to elevate it more. So it's that mismatch.
Yeah, and I also give slight points to this this prison sequence.
Mm-hmm.
It is ridiculous, but that's the tone of the movie, so I'm kind of going with it. But seeing her get out of the cell, like make her way through the ventilator shaft, balance the spoon with the water dripping on it, and then all to get back into that cell and pretend to be asleep again. I was like, okay, that's entertaining. Like, if you actually dissect it, it's like, no, that wouldn't be possible. But I was kind of on board with this whole sequence.
I enjoy that approach because it's very, it's kind of elegant in a way. I like when they try to focus on a more female element. Like, she's lethal, but she's feminine about it almost. Whereas, like, there are just as ridiculous things in male-led action films where it's like, they can't jump off a car and just land on, you know,
and this
that's just as ridiculous.
And this was mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
But I really, watching her particularly in this scene, or these scenes, I was like, she would make a great Catwoman.
Yeah, she would.
Like, she just has the physicality of it.
She has so much grace, too. Like, the way she touches things and grabs them is so... quiet and stealthy. I really appreciate that.
Zoe Saldana is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've established that.
Yeah. she's great. 2 thumbs up.
She's a dancer.
Yeah. Anything I've said hasn't been against
David.
her. It's been against the movie and its portrayal of her.
So let's see. We've so far covered that prison sequence. What is the next big thing?
The movie cuts back and forth between this bad guy who got stabbed in the hand, who I still don't know his name. I like that every time it would cut to the bad guys, you would just hear another classical piece of music play, and it's like, yep, I guess we're at we're at the bad guy's villa right now.
Also, Don Luis almost always is sitting and has some sort of brandy or something in his hand at all time.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Reclining in his villa.
He's such a good villain.
No, this is the definition of like completely cardboard forgettable villain.
Yeah.
On every single level. Like I don't even, it sounds bad, but I don't even care about getting revenge on this guy.
This movie had no antagonist.
Like yes, I get that we're supposed to feel bad about her parents dying, but there's a disconnect here where in this movie, I'm like, I really don't care about the revenge angle here. Like I think that's because the villain he's not cunning or maniacal or conniving in any way. He's just like bad guy.
And it wasn't even personal either.
Well,
because she never saw him face to face. He just had his men kill her. He's like way back here. He doesn't even know about her.
It's just like a name for her.
And she escaped, doesn't know anything except this one guy she stabbed.
The relatability of the injustice in the beginning was ruined by the cheesy dialogue of her father, Fabio, getting in the car. And it's like, it would have been worse, yada, 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 all this stuff. And it's like, what is going on? If he was like some hardworking guy, like every day, and this was an absolute travesty that he was just murdered. And, that kind of disconnect would have been, between the Don, the criminal world that runs everything, and the average person. And then she comes from nothing,
Yeah.
and makes him aware of who she is, makes a name for herself. That would have been a lot more growth, but here it's just
Also-
like, why?
Also, like, you're coming off of Leon the Professional, which I know this movie doesn't advertise itself as a sequel, but that movie has Gary Oldman as its primary villain, who is just turned up to 11. And now you have this movie that it's kind of this schlocky action film where an over-the-top performance would be perfectly at home in these confines. What are you doing?
He's literally subdued the entire movie.
No, I want this guy to just go. I don't care if you're a bad actor. Go all out. Like, just do something completely insane.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
that's what this franchise is, if you want to call it a franchise.
And
You
even
have-
Marco, the enforcer, like, has more screen time than the big boss.
He does.
And I'm half expecting this guy to have some kind of redemptive arc because he seems like he's got some kind of soft side, even though he's the one that killed her parents.
Right.
Like, he's completely ambiguous on how he's supposed to be.
Also, I want to clarify something with the villains. So when she, in the beginning of the movie, has that thing she gives to the CIA or whoever. The chip. It seemed like what they did later on in the movie they were explaining is they took Don, Luis, and Marco and them, and they're like, all right, we're going to arrest you, but really we're not. We're going to give you a villa, and you're just going to provide intelligence for us. Like, that's what it seemed like they were doing, but they did not make that very clear. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
You
Later
did?
on,
Okay.
eventually.
It was not very clear. I had to like rewatch that to understand.
Well, the problem is
Well, we did see that one guy walk in is like just all, nonchalant, his handler, whoever it was that we see later on.
Right.
Like being all chummy with him. Like you see there's that corruption, whatever.
But what does it provide
yeah,
for
it
the
was
story?
After the fact. Nothing.
It does nothing. Literally, if they didn't include that, it would have
was a
made more
complication.
sense.
It's a complicating factor that's supposed to provide tension that absolutely did not provide tension.
Yeah, if you want to add something complicated to your film, provide a reason for us to want to figure out why that is complicated.
Yeah.
This just has like complications, and it's expecting you to be invested in it just because it's like convoluted.
Right.
Like, but no, you have to like dangle a carrot of something that's interesting at the end of this convolution. Is that convolution a word? But to make me want to figure it out. I don't
Right.
even care. Like, I don't want to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time I was lost, and I'm usually able to follow along with some kind of tricky plot moves. I still have to rewatch things to understand, but this one did sort of, it's almost like there was a connection made that you're supposed to pick up on, but it was quickly swept under the rug, or the way it was displayed, like you said, was just not impactful enough to remember. So you're just kind of left a little confused as to the motives of all the characters in play.
Yeah.
Well, I felt that same way with their weird romantic comedy side quest.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the boyfriend? Yeah, let's talk about the boyfriend.
what was
real
he?
quick.
Let's talk the
an
boyfriend.
artist?
He's an artist. He's sensitive.
And somehow he knows what a catalyst is.
This just struck me as like this director, his comfort zone is action movies.
Right.
I don't think he's that great at that in the first place, but now he's trying to graft on this like side plot of some sort of, romance character. Like he's
Yeah.
trying to comment on how she's problem with intimacy because she's this stone cold killer and she doesn't want to talk about her life. And then insert this boyfriend character who's
Knock
like,
off Ryan Reynolds.
no, tell me something about yourself. I don't know anything about you.
One
Yeah.
of the cringiest things about it too is that they tried so hard to they jabbed the audience saying she said her name was Jennifer.
Yeah.
So this guy every single time he's like
Jennifer.
Jennifer, but why Jennifer?
Betrayal.
And it's so
Hey, Jennifer, you want to get coffee, Jennifer? Hey, Jennifer.
Exactly.
Jennifer, why don't you
The double
stay in the
life.
morning?
it was so I know probably people can overlook that,
Yeah.
but for me that
No,
was just
I
a
get it.
big tell that like, man, this
think-
is not a real relationship.
I think part of it too is that this actor, whoever he is not on the same level that Zoe Saldana is.
Michael Vartan.
Yeah. So when there are many movies that have this where they try to pair two actors, but they didn't do a chemistry test, They just kind
Yeah.
of like, you look good, Let's have you
just
be
make-
the romantic interest.
There'll be fireworks. Y'all
Yeah.
are just beautiful.
And you're beautiful, so everyone's going to love you.
It's like
But
throwing. It's like
speaking
throwing
of beautiful,
Don Julio.
I got
Sorry.
super sick of all the times there was a guy saying like, "Oh, she's pretty," or like, "Is she hot?" You know, like in reference to her. It was
Yeah.
like, why is this necessary? But back to the main point. It's just you can tell when two characters are on screen together and they just do not have the same star power. And that was this moment. It was Zoe Saldana paired with kind of a almost
Frat-
like
frat
a
boy
like a
Basement dweller.
very
Did you say basement dweller?
Like I was gonna say, it's like throwing Don Julio in a frozen margarita.
well, it's like it's this well-known Hollywood actress being paired with a guy that came off his first TV show set. You know,
Yeah.
like he feels like a TV show actor to me. Which there are really good TV show actors out there, but there is kind of this
Like a procedural.
yeah,
like
exactly.
ER
Kind of
show.
like
for an autograph
this
after
was
the
his
first
next
take.
job. You know,
Yeah.
like he didn't really have heart in it.
Yeah. And which, who knows, maybe that is what happened. I haven't looked into this guy's
Right.
filmography.
I wouldn't doubt it.
All right. Let's move on with the plot there.
Wait, we want to talk about the picture, showing it to the friend.
Oh, yeah. So the
I
boyfriend.
hated that.
The scene where he's. This is kind of later in the story, but it happens during this moment. It's kind of, they call back to it later on in the story, but he
Right.
does. He takes a picture of Catalia while she's sleeping, and he's like, "Yeah, I might have shown it with one of my friends. Sorry, this was so stupid."
Okay, hold on. This is a scene where I honestly thought maybe there's going to be some sort of twist with the boyfriend because they keep hinting when they're together. There's this dramatic music playing. You're like, oh.
Like something's gonna go
Yeah,
wrong.
and then, but he seems nice. And then when he takes the picture, it's super dramatic music. And you're like, oh, he's doing
yeah,
this
almost
to do something.
pretty much sinister music
Yep.
playing.
And then so when he shows his friend though, he's like, "Oh no, he's not bad at all. He's just like wanting to show his friend that he has a girlfriend."
Yeah.
And then his friend has some weird connection.
I
where
had
he's
to-
like, "Oh hey,
I rewound this three
you-
times.
can you look at this? My friend who's at a computer for some reason."
It was a girl who worked at the police department. I don't understand this.
A dispatcher.
This is fast forwarding.
Why?
This is fast forwarding the plot, but the line that made me crack up the most was when they're like doing the old. They're putting together the
questions.
picture on the
Oh my
on the
God.
computer, and the guy who's putting it together is like, nice nose, and then like pause. You have a girl, and then the marshal's like, print it.
I love all the police office magic that happens.
Yeah.
Where what was it? There was this.
I was half
I
expecting.
know what scene you're
them-
thinking, Irina.
I was
Oh,
half
what's it called?
expecting in that scene for them to be like, enhance.
Enhance,
Exactly.
yeah.
There was this one. There was what was that word? It started with an M. Do you remember, David? Like he's this investigator, I guess, is looking at his screen, and there are just so many funny moments with this guy. But he's looking at his screen, and it's like morphological data or something. I don't
Yeah.
know, like just something that's been loading up to
Just
try
from
and
Hollywood.
yeah, but oh god. And then the whole printout of her calling card, which was basically drawing an orchid
Yep.
on the dead bodies.
Which, by the way,
it was
the most
And they're like,
abstract
"Oh,
orchid
hey,
you've ever seen.
Catalia.
Yeah.
No, it was like
Yeah,
the
that was
janitor or
dumb.
something.
Yeah, I
It was
know,
like,
it was
that's a
a joke."
Catalina.
That's from Colombia.
Yeah, because
My
obviously
wife's
these
from
things
there.
are synonymous. Oh, Catalia's? Yeah, Colombia. You must be thinking of
Also-
that.
Not to mention, he looks it up and is denied access to something.
Because CIA. It said like
CIA.
it's like access denied. CIA
He
access
can't look
only.
into Colombia.
Yeah, he was trying to look up organizations.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's
Sorry.
One more point. The falling out with Emilio. Did you have any kind of emotional response to that? Especially with
Zero.
I did not
Dead
care at all.
Son.
I should have, but I had zero. Like it was just like, oh, I guess like in my head, it's like there's going to be some sort of reunion between these two. I know that doesn't happen, but I was just not. For one, I was not even emotionally invested in their relationship because Emilio is such like a clunky, unbelievable version of what Leon was in the original film.
Right.
Like I just didn't buy him throughout the movie at all.
I didn't
know-
see him as trying to be an analog to Leon. I just
Right.
felt like he was supposed to be the emotional grounding point,
Right.
but like it didn't click. And then especially with the estrangement from his mother or her grandmother or whatever relationship that was, Mama, I think.
Yeah. I think I know he's supposed to look, they're trying to convince me that he's the emotional grounding,
Right.
but his actions do not display that to me.
Yeah.
Like he'll
And they
say
throw in this
these
whole sob
things.
story about the son. Like,
Yeah, he says all these things, and I'm like, yeah, I can get that you're trying to be this grounding to this character. You don't want her
Right.
to get too out of hand with her murdering, but then he just does these things like that are
popping
against
off rounds around a school ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's so for that, like, he's just not a well-rounded, fleshed-out character. And when they have their fallout, I'm
Right.
like, whatever, I guess.
So I would, in this scenario, like they're trying to juggle two different emotional factors with Catalia. One is family, the other is love life. I get the motives for both. Like as far as the love life thing goes, you could express that she has this desire to lead a normal life and that there's a reason she's attracted to this artist guy. The way it's conveyed is just very sloppy and you don't feel like you got anything out of it. The other aspect is her connection to family. And I know we didn't cover this scene, but there is a moment where she goes to church with, I guess Emilio, is he her uncle?
Uncle,
His
yeah.
Tio.
Okay, her uncle. And the other lady who's her
Aunt, I
grandmother?
guess. There's a
Grandmother, I
grandmother
think.
and an aunt there, too,
Okay.
I think, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 people in that apartment.
Either way. Like
They could all be the same person.
right.
They could, yes.
But in my opinion, I would just cut the whole boyfriend scenario out of the picture. Focus more on her family. That way you have more of an emotional draw where she has this desire to have a normal life.
Internal conflict.
Be with her family. There's this connection here through church and, the way like blood is thicker than water and all that stuff, all that good stuff. But you don't get that. You get one measly scene of her being with her family and nothing else.
It's sad. There's a great...
So then, it just takes away all the emotionality of future scenes.
Yeah,
This
so
is why
sad
it's
'cause
confusing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Reese, what you're about to say is there's a good movie in here. But
Yes,
you
Right.
it's
don't see it at
exactly...
all.
Those are my words, yeah.
And it's confusing because, like, I know that this director, like, what they wanted was a dumb action movie. So why even put these other things in there tantalizing?
Right.
Yeah,
what
and
could've
why
been?
did Luc Besson, who I assume had a big hand in getting Olivier Megaton this role as a director, why did he endorse this guy? Like, I just
Maybe
don't...
he just took a chance on him.
Because even the Luc Besson of this era, he's still making decent movies. Like, there's art and craft to Luc Besson's films still. And
Yeah.
He didn't know how to handle a movie with a fully aged adult in it, I guess.
yeah, and this is under his studio too. It's Europa Corp. Like, this is a Luc Besson production essentially.
Right.
But I don't see
Anyway.
it anywhere. Anyway, we'll continue with the story.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
After learning about this Colombian orchid, FBI agent James Ross can now link this case to more than 20 other cases and tracks. They get a pin on Cataleya's photo from her being investigated and track her down to her unit, but Cataleya escapes and reaches out to Emilio, whom she finds dead along with the rest of the family. She then confronts Ross at his home and threatens his family, forcing him to reach out to CIA agent Steve Richard, who oversees the witness protection program over Don Luis. With the threat on Richard's life as well, she is given the address to where Don Luis resides.
Did we skip the shark scene?
No,
Yeah,
it's during this portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just don't touch on it in the plot. But
Because it's not
But
very
it's so
important.
cool.
It's
That-
not
I-
very
honestly,
important.
that's one of my favorite sequences outside of the intro.
right.
I thought it was dumb.
It is dumb, but it was more interesting than the other stuff we get.
Yeah, it doesn't pertain to the plot, at least from what I can tell. I know it's a cool visual, but was getting in the shark tank really the only way she could
No,
get her way in
definitely
there?
not. But
Especially since she killed the bodyguards too.
no, it made no sense whatsoever. But she actually did swim with sharks, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
She
Oh, that
took
is
scuba
true.
lessons. Like, she got really
Yeah.
into it just for this stupid scene. And whatever.
Yeah, this movie so did not deserve her.
Yeah, I'll say it is a memorable sequence though. Like even though it doesn't have anything to do with anything else, it's just kind of this side job. I was like, okay, there's blue in the color palette now. There you go. It's not this completely orange movie, and now we have CGI sharks. Cool. But it was like a nice little diversion. It was like, okay, this is what she does, and she's good at doing this, even though the way in which she did it
would have been
was
nice to see more of her crossing people off the list to get to her ultimate goal, but instead, oh, bada bing, bada boom, here, I'll let you have access to this VIP and immediately have payoff for nothing, no work.
Yeah. So we kind of did get into a lot of this part of the story already. We had more of the boyfriend stuff, how she's not wanting to open up to him because of her sordid life, and we also got into more of the villain stuff.
I do like Lenny James. He was another one that I always like his roles, whether they're written well or not. I do like what he puts into the performance, I think. How do you feel? He's Ross.
He's good. I still think like it's still an underwritten role, and I think especially when he's confronted with Catalea face to face, like his turn into just wanting to help her is a little too abrupt.
Yeah.
I know that he's like between a rock and a hard place, and that's his only choice. But I wanted to see a little more resistance there from his character because he was like hell bent on finding her.
Dude.
And
it would have been nice to see something similar to Willem Dafoe's character from Boondock Saints, where he'd bring this savant type investigator who can put all these pieces together that no one else sees,
Right.
to try to track down this master professional who's escaping capture. Like, it would have been nice to see that instead of, someone randomly uploaded a picture to Instagram and
yeah, I wanted to
is.
see him actually having, a little more. I wanted to see him put his skill to work. You don't see a lot of that. Like, I like to see. It's something, and we compared this to Bourne already, but you see both sides in Bourne as well. You see it from the people who are trying to track down Bourne and Bourne himself, like what they do to try to kind of track him down. And there's a lot of what I like to call competency porn,
Right.
where you see people just who are really good at their job, doing their work, and it's convincing. And you don't see that here. It's more just like he kind of barks out orders at people like, hey, we need these. Here's your dossiers. Make sure you study them. And that's it. But I do think just he does elevate this nothing role slightly above what it would be in less capable hands.
Yeah, he just completely forgets about the fact that she still killed 20 people.
So the issue I have with this is that for whatever reason, I just feel like they don't understand how the police or, investigations actually operate. Because even as a layman right here, I was thinking, well, why don't they focus on what the victims have in common? Like, why are they so focused on the person doing it? Like, that's one of the first things you have to do is connect the victims when you have a murder spree, especially when there's a calling card. There's a reason they're picking all these people. Figure out why that's happening, and then anticipate what potential other murders will happen. So then you could have an interesting scenario where they anticipate one of the kills and maybe create an issue for her.
Yeah.
So that I just
calls,
think that would be a more natural progression rather than just kind of sitting around waiting for like their data to update, know?
Like it's like I got the impression that the director had all these chess pieces that he had to play at these various points, but he didn't. Like, he's like, okay, this makes sense if we shove this part in here.
Right.
Because that'll make the story make sense. But he didn't do the work to make it, on like emotional level, make sense.
Meanwhile, they're like, you're playing Mahjong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what was the whole purpose of why did she have to cross all these other guys off her list to get to Don Luis if all she had to do was simply strong-arm two alphabet agents into, fearing for their lives who apparently have no protection or,
I don't know. It seemed very like
to do anything.
It was a calling
as soon as
card.
they threaten their
Everyone
lives,
was a
here
calling
you go.
card.
It seemed like an Assassin's Creed plot device where it's just like, oh, you got to take down all the the henchmen before you get to the big bad, but it didn't provide any reason
Means
why.
to an end.
Yeah,
I guess the only explanation I could give was this was before her uncle and everybody else she knew died, right? That happened just before she threatens Agent Ross, right?
yeah.
So I think it could be that she was trying to find a way to ethically bring the Don out, to play. Because that was her goal, was to aim for targets that were connected to him so that he would come out of hiding, essentially. That's actually just what I thought she was doing. But once she lost her family, there's kind of a snap. So she's like, I'm resorting to threatening the good guys now.
And it worked, apparently.
Yeah. So, or
But how would
good
that work
guys,
if
quote
she
unquote.
knew that he was in witness protection program?
Right. It's like you have to stretch to understand what's happening.
Yeah. So before we move on with the story, I do want to talk about the whole kind of apartment raid scene that's trying its darndest to mirror the Born, but also the scene from Leon, where it's the climactic scene where they are raiding Leon's apartment. I got the sense that they were like, okay, we got to have this big apartment raid with an explosion. It'll be our one big explosion. And
even the blasted brick wall kind of had a visual.
So I was like, I felt like since that's really the climactic scene in Leon, that they're trying to kind of, do their own take on that. And this was so inferior to Leon's scene, which was the scene in Leon was so filled with this tension and emotion, and just the way that fight escalated in Leon was so much more compelling than this, they set up an explosive and now she escapes. Like it was just, there was so much less at stake there, where I knew she was going to get out. No problem. She sneaks through the grate like she always does. I don't know. It's all flash and no substance to me.
Yeah.
How did y'all feel?
It's all telegraphed.
All flash, no suspense.
I would like to even compare this to other more direct competitors, so to speak, instead of Leon. Like you said, maybe say a Transporter or a Taken, or any of the other just kind of straight action films. Even this, like these big flashy scenes, don't have any kind of lasting impact on me, where I can pick out a car chase scene or remember, something from some other movie, even though that movie's not a great movie. It has that one memorable scene. Right. This movie doesn't have any of those. Like, I watched it twice, and I can't really remember until I'm rewatching it now.
Yeah, there's no set piece in this movie that is memorable in the least.
Sure.
Except for the prison scene, maybe.
Yes. That I don't even consider that action. I was more referring to action. But
you're right. Still, like the most action in those scenes, I don't remember.
Yeah, and there's one particularly egregious action set piece that we'll get into on the final portion of this story, but I can't pick out a single scene in this movie that is executed well or at least in a memorable way in action.
For something that throws aside all sorts of character development or complexity just for being simple thriller, like that's unacceptable, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have anything at least visually or exciting or memorable, like in that regard, it's what do you have going for it?
Yeah, nothing is the answer.
Zoe Saldana.
Let's finish off the story there.
Meanwhile, Don Luis learns that Catalea is in the U.S. and plans to eradicate her, but she ambushes them before killing the entire gang. She also confronts, fights, and kills Marco before Don Luis flees and swears revenge. Catalea had left her attack dogs in his escape vehicle, and they kill Don on her command. Danny is last seen being interrogated by Ross, but once Ross steps out, Catalea calls him from a payphone before getting on a Greyhound bus.
This final action sequence is just a scar on this film. Like it is so terrible.
Underwhelming.
Yeah, it's more than underwhelming. It's just awful. Like especially the scene in the bathroom where look, it is doing this Bourne thing where it's doing the quick cut and it's showing them like reach for whatever they can and try and hit each other with it. But it's bad because you can see all the setups to the moves like before they actually performed them. Like I could see like Zoe Saldana being like, okay, I'll stand here and then you'll grab me. And then like you see that part.
Okay, so
Like-
I want to say something about this that it changed my opinion a little bit, and it's kind of sad because I agree with you. I mean, this whole fight sequence is very underwhelming. But watching all of these behind the scenes, she was going over that scene specifically on how her character would fight in real life. And you know, she was talking about all these people trying to give her tips and tricks on how to fight and all these professionals. And she's like, no, that's not how Catalina would fight. It would be scrappy. It would be utilizing everything. She had her character dialed in and she knew exactly how she wanted to fight. And she had the director help her with it. And it did not come across.
Look, here's the thing. Like they clearly watched Bourne. They were like, oh, that book kill is really the book. When he uses the book to hit the guy is really cool. And they're like, what can we do?
Copy-paste.
What can we do? Oh, toothbrushes. Like it's like,
Hey, what
and
about John Wick? I mean, he does all that.
Exactly. They find all these practical items that you would find in a normal setting and they make them cool. This one tries to do that, but it's not cool. Like John Wick uses a book to break a guy's jaw and it looks awesome.
is
In this,
super cool.
she picks up toothbrushes
And just stabs
What does
them
she
with it.
do with them? Like it's not cool at all.
Yeah.
But everything about this scene, there's no movement to this actual movement to this choreography, and that is interesting to me. Like it's just them standing in the center of this room, kind of like trading blows, and then a gun flies into the bathtub, and then they're just trading blows, and the cuts are awful. Like it was just like it was embarrassing for me to watch, honestly, and that's just. Maybe I'm overblowing it,
No,
but it was
you're right. It's like
boring.
almost reminds me of like a stop motion. Like you're setting each position for these people so deliberately, but the smoothness of it, the overall flow is not there.
Yeah.
And so you see like, instead of the final product of stop motion, you see those individual setups, and it just doesn't. I mean, it didn't feel like a resolution. Like all this thing she's been going for this whole movie was just why.
Yeah,
and I kind of like the little bit of twist with the dogs, but
yeah,
in the end,
and I
the
did
actual
want to
fight.
I did want to lead
wasn't
into like so I think we all agree that the action is executed poorly here, but from an emotional standpoint, are y'all satisfied at all at any point in this finale here? Like, is it on an emotional level? Does it work for any of you guys?
I can't say I felt any emotion while watching this. It just happened.
I felt
and
one
that's it.
emotion. Rage.
I knew those dogs were coming back into play. I called it the second that they really, what's it called? They really telegraphed.
Foreshadowed.
Yeah, foreshadowed when they show her walking away from her dogs, like eat. I was like, nope, that's coming back into play.
Yep.
And sure enough,
Yep. That was a nice little button
Game of
on,
Thrones did it
on
better.
that sequence. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say on this ending other than just like they should not have used Johnny Cash's hurt.
That was that.
Well, and
oh
also
my!
the little interrogation with the pseudo boyfriend
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes,
who
that
has
too.
his own emotional stuntedness to him, takes a picture, and then 3 questions. I love you. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, bye.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so cheesy. There's some like metaphor about birds and leaving the window open and stuff like that.
Yeah. If you love something, let them go. They'll come back.
Yeah. Forget about yet again the 20 people she killed and didn't tell you about.
22.
22. Well, okay. But freaking hurt.
That's the thing
Hurt.
you're hung up on.
That's the song you put at the end of this movie. Oh yeah, this is such a good epic movie. Let's throw Hurt at
Okay,
the end. The
Noah.
most heartfelt, emotional song.
You're drawing too much internal emotion. Like it's not that bad. It
It's
was a good song choice.
wrong.
It's just not a great movie. Any song would have been bad, but because we like that song so much, it ruins it even more.
No. It's not just because we like the song. It's because the meaning of the song is ruined by how bad this movie is.
This movie feels
Well.
like someone giving a speech in their second language. It's not like you can see what effect they're trying to go for, but the fact that they aren't super comfortable in it makes it awkward and almost embarrassing. So that's what I got from a lot of this movie was that
That's a really good way of putting it.
yeah, it's
They put
there
the
are a
script
lot
in Google
of
Translate. And that's what we got.
there are a lot of foreign elements to it, but they're trying to display a certain amount of Hollywood razzle dazzle, you know, but they're not familiar with it.
And that would explain why all
Yeah.
of the actors, their lines are just over explaining like what their intentions are.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so like that's why it's kind of frustrating to watch because you can see what their goal is, and we are so familiar with better works in this area that it's glaringly obvious to us. I feel like they didn't quite know how this was going to come across. You know what I mean?
For I don't know, to combat that point of hurt, like it's to me, it's like you know how some chefs will throw like gold on a dinner.
Gold leaf.
You and your
Gold
analogies.
leaves on a gold leaves
This is
on a
gold on
dinner.
Spam.
Yeah, this is not like not like a good dinner. This is a freaking Twinkie, and they like.
Look,
oh,
the
let's
thing
put
is,
some
they don't realize it's a
sprinkling
bad
of gold
movie.
on
They,
there.
I honestly think they tried to make a good movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too.
The thing is, what's kind of sad and embarrassing about it is like they probably thought they had something with this, and they're like, yeah, let's put her at the end. That'll really hammer
Tie it all together.
hammer it home.
Right.
And nope, doesn't.
I know. I know. I'm more upset by that than I should be. But
I understand what you mean though.
It's shit. I don't know. It for me. It feels like it's like an insult to me because that's kind of a song that I cherish in one way, and then they're like, "Oh, let's throw it on this movie that we
especially
just patched together."
And then again, I don't want to draw too many comparisons to Leon because I think that's
Right.
unfair to this movie. But compared the last song at Leon, the closing song there, and it's so fitting. Every line, every lyric is like basically the movie and the
That was
characters.
Sting, right?
Yeah. This one is like Noah said. It's like too grandiose because we had no substance before it
Right.
to live up to that song, that closing.
Yeah, I feel like they needed something like new metal. Like, just down with a sickness or something. Like,
I stand alone.
yeah, Godsmack.
They say that a hero can save us.
Hey, we found a way to insert that song, Reese. We did it.
There you go. You did it. You did it. All right. So that's the end of the story. Any of y'all have any closing comments on the story before we get into the other portion of this podcast?
I love you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other end, we're going to get into our reviews of the film, also talk about what critics thought, get into some box office, and then wrap it all up with some franchise talk. Does this movie have a future, or is there anything else going on with this
Please, God,
franchise?
I hope not.
Yeah, we'll yeah, we'll see you then. Welcome back. Let's talk Colombiana. David, we're going to do our quick reviews first. You want to pull our reviews at random there from that bowl?
I will. And the first score we have is Irina with a 4.5.
Yeah, I think 5 is the marker where something is at least rewatchable to some degree. 4.5, I don't find this movie very rewatchable. If it were on, I would probably glance at it here and there because I like Zoe Saldana and I think she sells her scenes.
So if
the
you're
best
like
she
on
can.
vacation and you're in a hotel and literally nothing else is on and you see this on,
Yeah, I'd probably let it play while I did some artwork or something.
Ugh, I
Scrolled
wouldn't.
through Instagram. I don't know. It's not horrible enough. There's elements where I can see people trying, you know, and I still think that awards a movie points I can at least follow it to some kind of juvenile degree. And there are moments that honestly kind of made me laugh. So there's a small amount of entertainment to be gleaned from it. But for the most part, I found it very disappointing. It was easy for me to separate this from Leon the Professional. That's why in my review, I haven't actually compared the two at all. I don't think there are any ties whatsoever, which is a relief to me. I'm so glad they didn't, they only in spirit tried to continue that story. Unfortunately, everyone seemed to be on a different page as far as what movie they were getting into, and it left you with sort of a confusing mess of things. And I think I'll leave it at 4.5.
All right.
Next up is Reese with a 5.2. Oh, wait. That was a 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. It is very hard for me to find redeeming qualities about this movie. And this is after separating it completely from Leon, which I agree with Irina. It is easy to separate this from Leon the Professional and see it as its own thing. That said, when you separate it from Leon, you then compare it to its brethren, that being, Bourne specifically, Mission Impossible, all the other action movies of this era. And this one doesn't even come close. And this movie's its main goal is to be an action movie. This is, if I were to describe this movie to people, like the genre I would put it under is action. And the action it provides us is honestly terrible. Like I was not engaged in any of the action sequences in this movie. The only sequence that, registers anything above like a complete flat line of my heart rate is the prison sequence, and that's at the very beginning, and I don't even think that's very good. Like, it's fine, it's like competently directed, but I'm not really, it's like, okay, cool, I could see Zoe Saldana playing Catwoman in a better movie. Like that's the only thing that did anything for me. Like, another thing is, I feel like the script for this movie was probably much better, and what Olivier Megaton does with it is just dumbs down every aspect of that. There's no emotional weight to any of this movie. Like, I didn't feel anything for any of the characters. I think Zoe Saldana is doing a decent job carrying this movie, but her relationships with all these other characters it's just, I don't care what is happening. Like, the bad guy, I know this is supposed to be some big revenge story because her parents died. I never had a connection with her and her parents. Like, I never got to know that relationship to make me feel sad about it. And I never got to know this bad guy in a meaningful way for me to care about him dying. Like, it just doesn't show me enough. On top of that, the dialogue is terrible. There's so much, like, just saying and not showing, like, through, just facial expressions. It's a lot of, like, hey, I feel this way, and this is why this is happening sort of dialogue.
I love you.
So it's not a terrible movie, but I find it very forgettable. I will never rewatch this thing. If it is on the TV, I will turn off the TV and read a book. Like that's
saying something for Reese.
I have no affinity for this movie. I don't think it has. There's very few redeeming qualities. I didn't hate myself watching it, but I will never watch it again. So 2.5.
All right, dang.
There it is.
Next up is David with a 5. I had a feeling I was going to be on the higher end here, which is saying something when you give something a 5. I'm going to try to keep this short because I feel like you and Irina did a very good job of explaining similar feelings. I'm just going to say this is not a terrible movie. It is also not a good movie. It is a nothing movie. The reason I gave it a 5 was strictly because of the effort that was put into this. Especially when you watch the behind the scenes, and I am definitely pushing it up a little bit more because of that, more than most people should. But Zoe Saldana gave 110% on this. She sold to me that she was in this. There are other actors who I was also very much impressed with. I think that there were scenes that could have been better. But even the cinematography isn't terrible. It just doesn't translate well. And I think there is a good movie here. I bet you if you gave all the raw footage to another producer, they could make something out of this.
I don't think that's the argument. I agree with you.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, there is stuff to be gleaned from this. I don't think it's bad.
I agree with you. There's definitely a good movie that could be made out of this material.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and what they filmed wasn't bad either. They didn't piece it together right. This is kind of like Suicide Squad in a way, where it got a lot of hate, but I think there's a good movie in there. I actually kind of enjoy it, and if given the right person, we would have a good movie. But anyway, that being said, I was thinking about lowering it because it's not great, but I'm gonna stick with a 5 on this one.
All right.
Next up, Noah with a dastardly 3.0.
I love all your adjectives.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I don't get how this got made.
Well, I mean, we know how it got made. We explained it.
Yeah, okay, but like...
The take a
I don't
camera.
know. Okay, so if they explained it so well to Zoe Saldana, this is a complete and utter betrayal to her.
Well, yeah, it was.
It came out this way.
Keep in mind, it was Luc Besson who pitched it to her, which he wasn't really the director of this. So that's where it went wrong.
Well, that's why I feel completely comfortable giving it a 3, because I think the movie that came out is not the movie that he tried to sell to her.
Definitely.
And I think that like is a complete betrayal to her, who is, I think, a phenomenal actress. I don't know.
So I just wanted to jump in because I know how you're feeling, and what's funny is that I watched a video of this like AMC local theater decided to put their own YouTube channel together, and they were interviewing people who watched the movie like that came out of the theater. You know how many of them gave this like a 12 out of 10?
What?
Like
So,
all of them.
Weren't most of those really old men?
They were.
Are also... Oh.
Oh.
No wonder they like it.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I
it's
don't
just
know
funny.
why they liked it.
It was
but
funny.
Well,
it's just a
they're
funny
stuck at home with
coincidence.
Agatha, so this is very spicy for them.
Don't forget Opal.
Yeah, Opal too.
Oh, Nina.
Anyways, I thought this was kind of an atrocious use of my time. And my score reflects that.
That's very well said.
An atrocious waste of my time.
I want a quote. I want that put
I
on
want
something.
that in writing.
All right. Well, in which case, you're in good company, Noah, because AJ comes in at a 3.5.
Hey.
So I pretty much went into this knowing I was going to lower my score. I think I gave it a little bit of goodwill. So let's immediately change that to an even 3.
There it is.
That 0.5 was really kind of goodwill from Zoe Saldana, and she does a good job. I mean, we've said that's pretty much the highlight of this, but I don't think she also blows away the performance either, because and this could be direction and the edit and stuff, but even some of the other performance, there's not a whole lot of complicated emotion either. So I mean, she does well in the action sequences, but there's still some flatness in her action where there could be more character. And that could be her, could be direction, I don't know, but it's not an amazingly breathtaking performance regardless. But it is good. So that is the saving grace for the movie. At the same time, I mean, Reese kind of took all my points here. It's supposed to be this Hollywoodified action movie, yet there's no adrenaline pumping, memorable action sequences. And then from the indie bones of this movie, we don't have any kind of character growth or story. And I feel like we're also giving Luc Besson kind of a unfair pass here, possibly, because, I mean, he not only wrote the original script, but worked with the director on revising the script and was, the producer of it. So it's not like he was like, I wrote this story, make a movie out of it, and had no ties to it after that. I still think this was his pet project. He just wasn't at the helm directorially. So, and that's interesting to think about because, there is from this story, whether it's separated from Leon or not, potential here for, just creating a character that actually has some depth to it. But as we got, an action movie without excitement, we have no character development from anything or, any impulse, any, what's the word? investment, tension-wise, for any kind of motivation for this character for revenge. Like, Noah's not far from it saying this is not a good use of my time. Like, why are we wanting to see this to its resolution? It's okay to see where it's going the first time, but yeah, I'm with Reese. I have no interest in watching this again. It's, I don't know. It's unfortunate because like there could be a lot more there, and for whatever reason, maybe it was just to make a Hollywood blockbuster out of nothing, but I don't know. Like, we got nothing.
It's such a missed opportunity. Like, this one makes me sad because I've seen a ton of crappy action movies that are similar to this one, and this one actually had the something in it that could have been really utilized to be something better, and it just wastes it.
Well, you know what that is? It's many of them are stupid, but they're fun, and this was boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tries to straddle the fence, and it's like it takes the wrong choice on every decision.
Right.
But, and I don't know, like, David, you never answered if this was rewatchable for you. How did it compare to Tomb of the Dragon Emperor?
It doesn't. I would rewatch Tomb of the Dragon Emperor over this.
I will agree with you there.
Yeah.
I would probably watch that over this.
Yeah, it's really sad, but I would too.
For our confused listeners, David is remembered always for giving Tomb of the Dragon Emperor a 7 out of 10 when we reviewed that film over a year ago at this point. And we will compare every one of his reviews to his review of that film. And I am in agreement. I do find standard. I would rather watch The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor than this film.
So hey, everyone's on my team this time.
Take the W, David.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's move on to what the critics thought of this film. And there's a minor surprise here, I'll say. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 27% with an audience score of 67%.
I told you the audience liked it.
So that is that's fresh from the audience. Like, not that fresh, but fresh.
Like a fresh pile of crap.
Yeah. It's yeah. On Metacritic, the movie has a 45 out of 100, which is not a overall negative score from critics.
Yeah.
That is mixed, and a audience score of 5.6. So also mixed.
I probably ought to give you our average so you know how we stack up against that.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Sorry, I totally forgot.
That's all right. I forgot too.
No,
So-
AJ, you wanna? I'll set it up so I can go into it again.
Okay.
AJ, you wanna crunch those numbers for us?
All right. Group average is 3.6, and that puts it overall on our ranking list. Okay, so we are 3.6. That is below A Good Day to Die Hard and above Queen of the Damned. So it looks like we're about fourth from the last.
How did Queen of the Damned go that low?
Do you know what's sad? I would put Queen of the Damned over this movie.
I think
easily.
because it's fun, stupid.
Yeah,
you know?
And
It is.
that's
Yeah.
including Wild Wild West, one of our missing episodes.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
this is third to last.
Yeah, so I'll say something. I would watch Queen of the Damned first, only for its campy nature and how dumb it is, like Irina said. But I will say, on paper, it is a worse movie than this one.
What about Neverending Story 2, which is...
Oh my gosh, you can't...
Never-ending Story 2 is always the worst.
Neverending Story is like a negative.
We all
score,
know.
if I could
Specific,
do it.
Neverending Story 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get into critics. And there's a couple of surprises here, guys.
Are we going to do this again?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
That's what I got to do. It's easier on my editing.
Didn't you already?
No,
Lazy bum.
just let Reese
Are you
do
calling
it.
me a lazy bum? I
Hey,
spent
hey, hey.
hours on the edit.
He's the one that edits it. Let him do it.
Yeah, he's
the way
wearing a
he
trilby
wants.
and sneaking into other people's phones and sending pictures to random people at the dispatch.
Exactly.
My lady.
That made me so mad.
All right. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 27%. And the audience score is, wait for it, 67%. So, what? Yeah, so technically fresh there from the audience. So yeah, there's a
were
little...
right,
It's above
David?
all of us.
Yeah. On Metacritic, this movie has a 45, which is actually a mixed score. So there's positives and negatives.
Metacritic's
and,
always low.
Metacritic typically is is a lower score than Rotten Tomatoes, and I haven't explained this in a while, so I guess I'll go into that real quick how this works. So Rotten Tomatoes, the percentage you see on Rotten Tomatoes is the percentage of critics that liked it. It's not like that movie's actual score. It's like, so Colombiana, for example, got a
percentage of
27%. Yeah, 27%. That's the percentage of audiences or percentage of critics that were like, go see this movie. The problem with Rotten Tomatoes is it doesn't factor in all of the mixed reviews in between. Like a critic can be like, yeah, I give Colombiana a 5.5 out of 10, which is a mixed review, but they're then asked like, hey, is that positive or negative? And they would be like negative. So then in their algorithm, that goes in as like a 0%. So 27%, while that sounds terrible, that might mean that there's actually more mixed reviews for that film than you think. 27% sounds awful, but
it's just a different statistic. I mean, you're comparing apples to tomatoes, so.
Yeah. And Metacritic is an actual, like, condense or an average of the critical scores. Though it gets weird with Metacritic, too, because some critics' scores are weighed more than other critics based off, like, their standing, I guess. So it's even more confusing in a way. But 45 out of 100 is probably a more accurate representation than 27% of 100%. When you actually want to kind of get a sense of what critics thought of this movie. So it is kind of mixed, trending towards negative with Colombiana. The audience score for Metacritic is 5.6, also a mixed score. And on IMDb, which is an audience-based score, it has a 6.4, so that is mixed, almost negative, but still kind of in that safe zone there. So overall, this was kind of surprising to me because this movie for me is so obviously kind of like a bad movie. To see that it actually has, support is kind of surprising. I don't know about y'all, but seeing these scores, like they're not great scores, but they're better than I would have expected.
Definitely better than I expected.
Well, it's the one time I agree with the tomato meter.
I honestly feel like this is one of those movies where an audience, they just kind of had blinders on for it. It aesthetically matched what they're used to seeing. So they're like, oh, there's a attractive female lead. She's doing actiony stuff. It's edited to look like an action movie. I know.
In terms of box ticking, it ticks the boxes.
Yep.
It's like that what is that fruit or
pineapple
or whatever that you can eat and it changes your taste buds?
No idea. Catnip.
What?
No. So it's like this food that you eat it and it changes sour things to sweet and sweet things to sour.
I've never heard of that, but I'm intrigued.
I'll look up. Szechuan peppercorn numbs. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like
Doritos,
that, but for like movie taste. So these people probably like took one of those.
It's called the miracle fruit.
The screenings for the movie, they're just like, hey, just take a spoonful of this real quick. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I love that picture you just.
It's legit called the miracle fruit.
Sensipalum dulcificum.
There you go. Yeah, it's like that, but for movie taste.
Yeah. All right. So critically, mixed to negative, not outright negative though, which I was kind of expecting an overall like negative, reception for this film. It was not. Let's move on to the box office. This movie released on July 27th in 2011 against the other new releases, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark and Our Idiot Brother, that Paul Rudd movie.
Paul Rudd movie.
Yeah. Also in theaters at the time were The Help and Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Ooh.
So this is, to put it in, contextualize this is late summer, so usually the big blockbusters have already come out and they're kind of waning, and this is like just the kind of the last desserts. They're just pushing out the last films before we get into the fall season. Not a lot of big movies during this season, but some of them do manage to break out in a big way. This movie was budgeted at $40 million, which is about the standard price for a film like this. It's a mid-budget film. What do y'all think this did worldwide, based off that $40 million budget and its release date? Let's go with AJ first.
So this is tough because obviously the audience scores were a lot higher than what we anticipated. And I also don't know how to factor in the international factor for this movie, given its international origins or European origins. So Summer, I'd say 80.
80 worldwide for AJ. Noah.
I'm actually going to go a little high on this one because I think it probably failed to continue for other reasons than box office. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say like 180.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Yeah.
David.
I was going to lean towards 80 as well, but you know what? I don't remember seeing this movie coming out. I bet you a lot of people didn't. If it didn't do well in the U.S., it probably didn't do well overseas. I'm going to say 65.
65. Irina.
It's kind of tough because I do think that Zoe Saldana was kind of a name draw at that time. And so, like, if I knew more about it, I'd be like, yeah, action hero. I would love to see that. So, maybe not 80, but I'm going to go with 70.
70.
All right, I'm going to say, though, I don't think she was a big household name at this time. Her biggest movie before this was Guess Who?
Yeah, but she did Avatar already,
Avatar.
right?
Oh, she did,
Yeah.
but she was
Yeah.
also not very known because it was a CG.
I think
character.
Star Trek was out
She
at
did
that point,
Avatar
too.
and Star Trek. I think
This
she was like...
this was
It
like
was
her
right around the exact
This was
same
her
time.
15 minutes.
And she
Yeah.
had a very small role in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
And then
but
she
you
came-
know that had absolutely zero effect on
I
audiences.
know. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway.
She was also in Crossroads, Britney Spears
The
movie.
point is, I think she was up and coming
Yeah.
at this point.
All right, Irina, you were almost right on the money.
Really? Hey,
Yep.
look
What?
at me.
This
That
movie
was way off.
worldwide did 71
Oh, come
million.
on.
Dude, that sucks.
I was close, too.
My God.
Y'all were both close.
I was off by 6.
Yeah, yeah.
I
AJ and
missed.
David were close. Noah, you had 100.
Oh, hey.
I respect
was,
it. I respect
I was
no, I-
shooting high.
I respect the audacity. Yeah, 71 million. This movie was not particularly successful. It wasn't an outright bomb. Something about it, I don't think it had the biggest like marketing campaign, so I don't think a whole lot was spent on advertising.
It's a pretty small budget, too, for this
40
kind of movie.
But 40 million and then a 71 million worldwide.
not
This
great.
movie did not get a profit. I don't know what its DVD, Blu-ray sales were, but
Probably not good.
this is one that I do see in the bargain bin a lot, or at least I did at the time. So I could see it like garnering kind of a second life amongst people who are not looking for something really high-minded with their action. I could see them throwing this on and enjoying it, and
Yeah.
people throwing it in their cart, but I don't actually have the figures on
Nearly 10 million in DVD sales.
that. Okay, so that's not nothing. It's not. I don't think that's that great though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough to justify a full-blown
15
sequel.
if you include Blu-ray.
If you include Blu-ray, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that's fine. I just don't think there's enough here. The critical reception was not great. Audiences liked it, but they didn't love it. There's no like hashtag release the Colombiana sequel. This just kind of occupies that ground of like, oh yeah, that was an action movie. It did its thing. It left. It didn't cost the studio way too much. It was. I would imagine this took a bit of a loss for. I want to say it was Sony. But that said, there was still discussion even recently about there potentially being a sequel or a prequel to this film. And so first off, this isn't a sequel at all, but there's a Bengali film that was made that was a remake of this called, if I can pronounce it correctly, Agni, Agnee.
Yep.
So yeah, there was a remake of this film that came out, and there's some like legal disputes over that thing.
That is so weird.
It's so weird to pick this movie as like something to remake, but okay. But as recently as 2015, there was actually discussions about a prequel or sequel to this film, Colombiana 2. And Luc Besson was like, he was wanting this thing to be made. He's actually like invested in this universe and wanted some sort of sequel or prequel to be made for this. And Zoe Saldana was even interviewed and actually expressed interest in returning as the character. But since then, it's been 6 years. There's been nothing about this. I don't think we'll ever get a Colombiana sequel or prequel. I think it's safe to say that that's not happening.
Done.
But it is weird that this kind of undead version of this idea was, shambling along all the way to 2015 before it was finally just shot in the head. So yeah, like I if you were to ask me if there's ever going to be any more Colombiana specific, especially portrayed by Zoe Saldana, I think there's no chance in hell. Like, that's not happening. But what do y'all think?
Yeah, I don't see anything that strongly indicates there would be a sequel or prequel.
Yeah.
I could imagine somewhere along the line a movie coming out that is supposed to be in the same universe.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine they would pick this line back up specifically.
I would actually love if they brought back Natalie Portman for her own movie. And I know we talked about this in the last episode. I would be so down to see a movie if they just erased Colombiana, which I know is not actually part of the franchise, but it's kind of the spiritual sequel. If they just erased that from existence and had an actual proper sequel to Leon the Professional, though instead it's a grown-up Matilda played by Natalie Portman.
We all want it.
I would watch that.
I think people just want a mainstream La Femme Nikita. And so, that's been done now. And even, look at, something like Wanted with Angelina Jolie on the poster. And you've got some cool twists with that.
Even
Atomic Blonde.
Luc Besson has already done a mainstream La Femme Nikita.
Lucy.
But more specifically, he came out with a movie last year, I want to say, that was called Anna. And it was very much that. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but that's what I've heard. I've heard it's just a lesser version of his original film.
I do feel like this time period was pumping out movies more like this. Didn't we also have Salt with Angelina Jolie around this time?
Yeah, that wasn't Luc Besson, but the same...
I'm not saying Luc Besson. I'm just saying female-led sort of action.
Yeah, Salt and Lucy, I want to say, came out in almost the same year.
And
Hannah, that's true.
That also came around that time.
Yeah. A lot of single female named movies. Punch. Yeah. Sucker Punch, Atomic Blonde.
That was a
Atomic
little
Blonde
bit later, but
is awesome. I stand by that one.
I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know. I don't think it was. Yeah, there's still talks of that keep going. So not a dead franchise.
And even potentially crossing over with John Wick. Yeah, which would make sense. All right. So before we move on, I guess we're at the end. So let's get into honorable or dishonorable. So we are, in this case, let's just for kicks, let's include Leon the Professional as part of this franchise. And does this movie end on a conclusive note, or does it demand a sequel based off where we leave off?
It demands a sequel.
So actually, I'll explain this to our listeners real quick. So at the end of our episode, we do a honorable or dishonorable, where we judge a movie based off of how it ends. Does it end in a way that sets up a sequel and in a way that it doesn't stand on its own, or does it conclude all of its the entire plot and ends on a conclusive note? And if it does end conclusively, then it gets an honorable death. If it does not, it gets a dishonorable death. So you guys, honorable or dishonorable for the Leon franchise?
Dishonorable.
I think it's honorable.
I think
No.
Yeah, I think
I'll have to
technically.
Okay, no.
So
if you're including them together, it can't be honorable.
Oh wait, are you
He's including them together.
with
It can't be.
Leon?
So what?
I would say it's the same for if you're including them together or not.
Okay, all
it's the
right.
same.
In that case, I will split them up. If Colombiana is its own film, is this an honorable or dishonorable death?
Colombiana to me is dishonorable.
Agreed.
I don't know. To me, Colombiana, my heart says dishonorable, but if you're looking at the practical, it did finish its stupid story.
So did it though?
Yeah,
because
the story or on paper the story.
This is why I want to say dishonorable, is because while we were talking about this film, yes, she did defeat this Dawn or whatever, but she didn't actually, her character was not changed by this sequence. And I think the point of the movie was she yearns for
closure,
kind of a normal life, or to, have something resolved within her. But you never get that.
And I would argue
the door is left open for her to come back to her boyfriend.
They also hinted at there being a sequel.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Actually,
Okay,
when
I'm
you think of it that way, they do the
she's
whole
not going to stop killing.
Yeah. They do the whole like, oh, there's much more adventure to be had, but they did it in such a way, or in a story in which there's not supposed to be more adventure to be had.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I agree.
Y'all have swayed me. I was originally going to go with honorable because I was like, yeah, it concludes.
Not hard to convince us.
Yeah. I'll go with dishonorable on this one as well.
What was your thought on that, AJ?
No, I'm with you, and it just expounding on that is, she didn't grow, she didn't have a conclusive moment of redemption. I don't see her as stopping killing anytime soon because she's going to find some other thing that needs, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is we don't have a growth arc. We are told what her redemption story and character growth is supposed to be. We don't get that even if, in her closure moment. So
Yeah. All right. So Colombiana has handed me its papers, and I have pulled out the dishonorable stamp, and I am stamping it. Chink. Dishonorable for Colombiana. Sorry, Colombiana. Maybe next time. In fact, no, please, not next time.
She handed you her passport, but instead you deported her.
She vomited on your desk.
Sorry. You can take that out.
I'll take it out.
You can take that out. I'm sorry.
She vomited on the desk. All right, next week. Ooh, I'm excited for this one, guys. We are talking about Sicario, Denis Villeneuve's film. This one, I'm okay.
Don't
I'm gonna
get too excited yet.
I've seen the film. I will try not to reveal my hand, except I feel like I already have. But we're closing out our vigilante miniseries, or Hitmen with a Heart, if you want to call it, series with the 2 Sicario films, starting with Denis Villeneuve's Sicario, followed by Sicario: Day of the Soldado. I'm very excited for this next couple of films. Until then, we'll see you guys.
You must expect the unexpected. She's like mist under a door.